Everyone, and welcome to this new Teacher Academy webinar on social and emotional learning. Today we have two presentations. First from Professor Carmel Cefai. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I'm sure you can introduce yourself at the beginning and a little bit of your background for the participants. And if you have any questions for any of the speakers about any of the presentations or the topics or any comments, please leave them in the chat box, and we will go through them after the presentations. So unfortunately, we cannot give the participants the microphones, but if you have any questions or comments, just leave them into the chat box and we'll check them after the presentation. So now we can go ahead and start with the first presentation from Professor Carmel Cefai from University of Malta. So thank you once again for joining us, and welcome to the.
So I will start?
Yes, you can start.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Asi, for inviting me. I hope you can hear well. Asi, is the sound okay?
Yes, it's okay. It's a little bit low, but I suggest for the participants if you can also turn up your volume, because so you can hear us as well as possible.
Thank you. So during these 25 minutes, we'll be talking about socio-emotional education, as we call it. It's also known as socio-emotional learning, fostering skills for these classrooms. It's largely based on a study which is just have carried out in the Union. It's about strengthening social-emotional education as a core curricular area across the EU. So what I thought we will do in this presentation, first we will ask, do we need social-emotional education in our schools for our children? Secondly, does social-emotional education work? Does it have the impact we expect? If it works, we will look at the evidence whether it works or not. How does it work best? Okay, how we can do it in a way which is most effective in the classroom. And the final part will have some strategies what the classroom practitioners, teachers, can do to implement and promote social-emotional education. So we'll start with the first question. Why do we need social-emotional education in our classrooms? Okay, so reality is changing for many children today, and as you well know, the classroom practitioners, many school children come to school with a heavy baggage. Not the baggage full of books we are seeing here, but psychological baggage. And we cannot ask our children to leave this baggage outside so that we can focus on academic learning. The teachers will need to address also this baggage the children bring in the classroom. So what sort of baggage, reflect a little bit in your own practices, what sort of baggage the children bring with them. I have some suggestions for you, but you might have added according to your own context. For example, children today are being exposed a lot to the media, such as social media, which is leading to overuse, addiction, and also exploitation. Related to that, of course, is cyberbullying. Besides cyberbullying, there is actual bullying which takes place. We did also a study. We have found bullying is very real and present in many schools and countries across Europe. Children also get stressed as well as adults, stressed from schoolwork, from homework, academic pressure. Also loneliness nowadays, especially due to urbanization in cities, lack of community is another issue which impacts children's well-being.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. There's still comments about the sound. I don't know if you can closer or put the microphone somehow closer? Because for me it sounds okay. Yes, for me it sounds okay. So for the participants as well, if you turn up the volume as well. So that should also fix some issues, yes. Because for me, I hear you
I'm
fine.
doing my best.
Yes, of course, yes.
To be close to the microphone. Parental discord, so family parents fighting in front of the children, is an issue, especially when there's violence in the family. Abuse, child abuse, and neglect, another common issue in many countries. Mental health problems, you know that as many as half of mental health problems manifest themselves before the age of 15, when children are still at school. So schools have a very important role in the prevention of mental health difficulties. And then, of course, poverty, socioeconomic status, and transitions and trauma. You might have seen this picture. For example, in my country, Malta, it's a real situation which occurs very frequently. Okay, so because of these changes taking place in children's life, education, in order for it to remain relevant and meaningful to children's lives, needs also to address these psychological issues. And I like this quotation by Morris Elias, who is an American psychologist has been working for many, many years on social emotional. And he says, we need to prepare our children for the tests of life rather than burdening them with a life of tests. Of course, we are playing with words here. So rather than having children to sit for a lot for examinations and stressing them in the process, life of tests, he says our focus should be to prepare them the tests of life. And what are the tests of life? Most of these tests are mainly social psychological. Okay, so we are talking about the self, myself, and also the others. Myself in terms of my own growth, my own development, and how I solve problems, how I make decisions, how I relate to others, how I persist when I have a difficulty to be resilient, how I regulate my own emotions, such as anger, how I develop healthy relationships, how I work as part of a team, how I'm empathic towards others, how I respect others who are different. So these are some of the tests which children need in order to be successful in life. And social emotional education is exactly about this. Okay, this is a framework about social emotional education, which is the most known framework in the area. It's developed by an American association called CASEL, at the bottom, Collaborative for Academic, Social and Emotional Learning. We have adapted a little bit in our report, this framework, into 4 dimensions, self and the others. But basically here we're talking about self-awareness. So where we help children, students, to recognize their emotions and values, as well as their strengths and challenges. Then we go to self-management, the yellow box at the top. And here the focus is on developing the competence to manage emotions and behaviors to achieve one's goals. The lower bottom, the orange green boxes, these are about the social, the others, the other part of the dimension of social. First is social awareness. The key here is about understanding others, being empathic with others, and then, of course, the heart of social relationships, forming positive relationships, working as part of a team, resolving conflicts constructively. The last, the blue box at the bottom, dark blue, this relates both to the self and to the others. Basically, it's making responsible decisions. So this is what more or less the competences we are talking about when social teaching, social emotional education in the classroom. So hopefully you get this was a very quick overview of why social emotional education is important and more or less what it is. So if we were going to do it, we say it is nice for children to learn these competencies, these skills, but do they work in terms of bringing about a change in behavior? And this is what we tried to do in our report for the European Union, which we published last year. I'm not going to go a little into detail about the report as such, more about the findings. This report is available online. If you Google the name of the report, as it is here, it will come up and very briefly, we looked at what reviews of studies have recent reviews found. We also tried to take into consideration non-American studies, especially European studies, because our focus was in particular the European context. What we have found first that social emotional education on the basis of the evidence does have an impact on children's behavior. In what way? First, children who have social emotional education as part of their education, there is an increase in social emotional competencies. So they become better at solving problems, at building relationships, at resolving conflicts, at understanding and empathizing. Secondly, there is an increase in pro-social attitudes and behaviors. Children are more collaborative, more supportive, and understanding each other. A very interesting finding they found, there is an increase in academic learning. Because one of the concerns of teachers and also of parents, if we are going to do social emotional education, is this is okay, but the curriculum is full. We have no space for it. We cannot afford to introduce a new subject or new activities instead of academic learning, because this will take precious time away from the academic learning. The evidence, though, shows the opposite. If we invest our time in social emotional education in our classrooms, that will also help to increase academic performance in exams. Okay? And of course, then there is also on the other side, there is a decrease in negative behaviors such as bullying, antisocial behaviors, violence, delinquency, and also the internalized problems such as anxiety, depression, and suicide. But we have found that it is effective, these impact effective across the school years, starting from kindergarten, nursery, preschool to high school, but the biggest impact is in the early years. So early intervention, earlier we start. So that's the second question. Now I go briefly to the third question. Right. How does it work? So if we are going to do it in our schools, what is the best way to do it that we will have most impact? And we have developed this framework consisting of 10 components. I will go very briefly each part of the framework because we have a little time. And we'll start with the very core of the circle, which is the dark shaded. I hope you can read it. And there is a so in order for social emotional education to be effective, we need to take a comprehensive, balanced approach, not just teach one part of it. For example, what we found in Europe, that in many countries and schools, they do citizenship, which is also related to social emotional education. But citizenship is only about one part of social emotional education, especially the social aspect. It doesn't focus so much on the self. So in order for us to be effective, we have to have a balanced approach, including both the intra-self and inter-self. relation skills. Secondly, we go to the dark shaded, go round circle, curricula. So in order there is still this debate, which is the best way to do SEL schools, SC in schools? Is it that the taught approach where there is direct instruction and we teach children specifically how to solve problems, how to relate with others, how to think positively? Or the best way is to do it transversal through a court approach by creating a classroom climate? The debate is still ongoing. However, the research evidence is quite clear. We are most effective if we use both taught and court. So social emotional learning needs to be part of the curriculum. It needs to be on the timetable, a specific time allocated on the timetable for social emotional. In our research, we found that this is not always the case. Okay, because of pressures, the academic pressure, teachers may not find adequate time to dedicate to social emotional. Research shows if we are going to do it, we need to do it well in order for it, not when we have time. Okay, so then talking about the core approach, the classroom climate is extremely important. You cannot teach social emotional learning skills in a toxic environment where children are afraid or they are competing and fighting with each other. So the climate itself is a crucial part of social emotional education. Okay, and teachers need, we are suggesting, also as part of their training to have the strategies to create this caring, supportive, collaborative, inclusive climate in the classroom, which also we are talking here also that training needs to address teachers' own social competence as well. We'll talk about that. Okay? So, for example, if teachers are teaching about emotional regulation, how to manage our emotions, our very, very important part of the process for children is to see their teacher managing her own emotions in stressful, difficult times, like in classroom management. I think we have to go a bit quickly because time is pressing. So the next, we talked already about this early intervention. So all students benefit from social emotional up to college level, but it's very important we start very, very early in the and we also suggest that students, especially as they are growing older, they are given a voice in the process. As we shall see later on, once the way we teach social emotional learning is a little bit different from traditional teaching, what we call the SAFE approach, which is very, very highly experiential. So students need to be at the center of and have a voice in maybe the use of resources, the type of activities that they do in self-assessment. A recent study carried out with high school students in America, and with the students complained that they did not receive adequate social emotional education, and also that they felt that it was not very relevant to their lives. If we involve students in decisions, this is one way of ensuring that what we are doing is relevant to students' life because we are listening to their voices. Okay, social emotional education is not only about children, it's also about adults. And first, as I'm sure as teachers, parents are a key stakeholder in social emotional education. And we use this phrase, sharing responsibility. So social emotional education is the responsibility of the teachers, but also shared with the parents themselves, so that there is a continuity of learning in different contexts. And what we have found, however, parents tend to be resistant approaches which are top-down. They find it easier to engage teachers and schools through a bottom-up approach when they are invited to schools and asked, okay, how can we work together so that we can ensure children are learning in the best way and practice these social skills. The other adults, of course, are the teachers. So social emotional education is also about teachers' education and own well-being. The good thing about it for teachers, apart that students are learning better, they are behave better, and they achieve better, that also teachers themselves benefit from teaching social emotional education. So they, and research shows that teachers who teach and facilitate social emotional education, they are more confident and satisfied teachers. And of course, they become more socially competent, social emotionally competent themselves in the process. Okay? And very important part of this, however, the key to success we are finding from research is teacher education. Teacher needs education at both initial teacher education, but also continued professional development, as we shall see later on in implementing social emotional education programs in the school. I think we can skip this, and we are running out of time. And the two last points before we close this circle is about quality implementation and quality adaptation. So when we have a program, we are implementing this program in our class, how much can we change in this program so that we adapt it to our own context, to our own children, to our own needs? First of all, research shows that you can have excellent programs and they don't work for two reasons. Either they are not implemented well. Okay, so teachers do take parts and pieces from them, and they do it in their own way when they have time, and they don't follow the guidelines on what to do, what not to do. So that is one issue which one needs to keep in mind, and also, which of course is necessitated that teachers receive training in the way they have to implement the programs. Secondly, on the other hand, if the program, for example, we have a program which is a state-of-the-art program, very effective in another context in the States, research has shown that when it is implemented, lock, stock, and barrel, without any changes, the context, it may not work because it's not meaningful according to the context where it's being implemented. So there has to be a balance between implementing the program while preserving its integrity, not changing it too much, diffused, and it morphs into something else. But at the same time, changing it so that it is sensitive to the local context, to the children we have in the classroom. Okay, so this is the roadmap which we are suggesting is a whole school approach, okay, with all these stakeholders involved and teachers' well-being taken into consideration. We cannot expect teachers who are tired, exhausted, stressed, burnt out to be effective in teaching and facilitating social emotional. Okay, so first of all, we need to train and support teachers in order for them to be more effective in the classroom. Right, so I would like to finish. Maybe we have 5 minutes. Let's see.
Yeah, we still have a few minutes left.
A few minutes. So last five, I made 5 points. Now, what teachers can do in the classroom on the basis of our report. Very general because we don't have time to go into actual specifics. Some of these you may be already doing. Okay, so and we have found many instances of good practice as well. So first, I think it's very important that we need to foreground social emotional education. that it doesn't remain in the background. Academic learning at the foreground and social emotional at the or education. We need to bring both in the foreground, head and heart. And it's very important that teachers themselves believe that the time they are investing in this is time well spent, as much as time on academic learning. This very, very important mindset is necessary for teachers and schools to invest their adequate energy and adequate time for social emotional education. And so both head and heart, they are needed in education, and also, as we have seen, they support each other. So the heart supports the head in terms that it improves academic learning. So the challenge, I think, for teachers in the classroom is to find sufficient regular time in the timetable. Of course, in order to do that, they would need maybe the support of the school as well and the local authorities. But I think we can also start from the classroom itself. Secondly, the role we have as classroom teachers in creating a caring classroom climate conducive to social emotional education. So as you are sure agree with me, teachers are not just instructors, but they are caring educators, mentors, and good positive role models for the students in also social emotional competencies. So they also need to provide warmth and support in their relationships with the students. There's a lot of research showing the importance of teacher-student relationship. This gives students emotional security, sense of belonging, and also use of positive classroom management, student-centered discipline according to their development, so giving students control, helping them get control over their behavior. And as I said, teachers can help also to be positive role models of understanding, for example, to their listening skills, to their empathy, of collaboration. So the teacher sharing responsibility with the students in constructive conflict management, so the way the teachers solves conflicts such as classroom interruption is also a role model for students how to solve problems and how to resolve conflicts. Three, the pedagogy itself, which of course is related to the climate, um, there is a particular pedagogy, as we shall see in a minute, which is also more conducive to social emotional education. So the focus is more on collaboration in contrast to competing, competition, sheer individualism. Okay, and some of the strategies I'm sure US teachers are using are cooperative learning, peer mentoring, so students teaching and supporting each other, and also self-assessment. So the students and teachers collaborating with the students themselves in the teaching and learning process. And there is a focus on student autonomy, so students are given responsibility and choice. We know that also helps the self to grow. The way to teach social emotional education is, we call it the safe approach, as we shall see in a minute. And the focus of that is interactive experience. So in order to do a skill, students need to practice through role plays, drama, um, small group work, and also giving the opportunity to practice a skill later on and during academic. And of course, there is an ethos climate of inclusion and celebration of diversity. That all students have their strengths and all are going to learn and contribute to each other. As Ellison Wonder said, everybody wins in this race. There are no losers. Number four, competence building. So this is the instruction of the skills themselves. Of course, in order for teachers to do this, they need some investment. First, they need training and resources, programs. Okay, a lot of programs in the market, very important programs which are being found. have been found to be effective. Um, as I said, it's very important in competence building to keep the hazard model to make sure we are covering all aspects. The safe approach, so there is an explicit focus, explicit goals, specific goals, what we want to do, okay, and through an interactive experiential approach. There is this issue, okay, are teachers themselves the best persons to teach social emotional education, or are psychologists or specialists better? Research shows that when teachers are well trained, it's better that the teachers themselves do social emotional education with their children in the classroom rather than professionals. Finally, as I said, competence building requires teacher education and also human, physical, and timetabling resources. A very important part, and this is why also the benefit of the teacher herself doing the, the implementation of social emotional education is one a very important part of the learning process is the transversal part. So once we have direct instruction in social emotional education, problem solving, then the teacher tries when she's doing the other, for example, in primary early years or in secondary subject, she tries to embeddedness is the American use that skill competence in the other academic areas of the curriculum. Okay, for example, mathematics, since we use a math lesson as a way to examine problem solving skills. In science, we emphasize the importance of listening skills in gathering information, making observations, etc. This has been found to be a very, very important part of the learning process. And finally, I have already mentioned this, the importance of teachers' education, both in initial teacher education and in continuing professional. We have in our report identified the areas where we think teachers will benefit, such as training in social and emotional development, mental health and well-being, then training in implementing social programs in the classroom, how to do it well, what to change, what not to change. Also in developing their own social and emotional competence. So in order to teach about relationships, the teacher herself would need the ideally to have this competence. So some what we are recommending that part of the training where the teacher develop these competences themselves and others. And of course, the last point is that teachers are also supported to take care of their own health and well-being, both of course for their own sake and the profession, but also for the sake of the children. And there, to conclude, there need to be adequate and continued support, including mentoring, developing these competencies. I think from research is showing that teachers are the most important factors in the success of social emotional education in schools. And if we have time, I think we can skip these things to avoid. I think I already have taken refer to some of these things. So thank you very much. I will stop here because I think
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Any questions at this point for Mr. Carmel Cefai about the presentation before we move on to the next one? Thank you so much. I think we can also refer to the report you mentioned earlier. We can put a link to that because that's a wonderful resource for anyone who's interested in the topic. And I like the comments in the section. They said the teachers should be the role models for students, but also I like how you bring into the whole school approach that the teachers, I think everyone here agrees that teachers need the support as well. So the teachers need the support from other teachers and the schools as well. But yes, this is a good starting point, as someone also mentioned. So if there are any other comments or questions, I think if you stay around until 6, we have more chances to comment. But meanwhile, yes, so we have recorded this session if someone joined later, and we will share the slides and, as I said, the report with all the resources. So for now, thank you so much. And next we have Rita. Rita Arundel here with us also to present. So Rita, if you could also connect your microphone. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
And you can, hello, I hope you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Can you also turn on your camera? That would be great.
Does that sharing? That one, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, okay. I think it's coming. Hello. Yeah, just a quick question. Hi, welcome. I have your slides here, so I think you know how to navigate them. Do you have any other presenters here with you?
Yes, I have Kelly Roberts, and we will soon be also joined by Lisa Greenough.
Okay, but you will use the same camera and the account, so it's okay. All right. Okay, so I have your presentation here, so I'm sure you can introduce yourself, and also you have prepared some questions for the participants as well. So you just let me know when you want them visible on the screen, and I'll put them there.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you so much, and go ahead and.
So, hello, my name is Rita Arundel, and I am head teacher of East Hunsbury Primary School in Northampton. And I look forward to sharing with you all a project that we undertook to support the children in terms of their social and emotional development, which follows on beautifully from the earlier presentation. So we started our project, which we called SMILE, in order to improve children's attitudes to themselves and to education and to coming to school. We wanted it to help us decrease disruptive behaviour in the classroom and to provide a more supportive environment. We wanted to improve the pupils' interpersonal skills and relationships, and we wanted to reduce the number of exclusions that seem to be occurring in both primary schools and secondary schools within our countries. And finally, we hoped that happier children would make happier learners, and therefore we would influence academic success. So for the adults, we wanted to get them to acknowledge that although for some pupils it's very easy to immerse yourselves in good behaviour and quality emotional and social skills, but for some children that's more difficult. And therefore the idea that actually you can teach those things directly rather than assuming they'll always be caught in the learning environment you provide. So we wanted the children to actually develop a greater understanding of everyone in their classroom, those who behaved every day and those who struggled, were upset or angry, showed rage, etc., so that we could actually support each other and understand ourselves a bit more. And then also to have all the children understanding how they can acknowledge how they're feeling and manage their emotions more successfully. So we decided we were going to plan activities for children aged 3 years to 11 years, which explicitly teaches emotional literacy, giving it some dedicated space and time within our curriculum. And we wanted it to be applicable for children with special needs in mainstream classes, but also within our specialist unit, which is for children with severe learning difficulties. So it was a 2-year national agency project funded by Erasmus, and it involved the pupils, the staff, the parents and the governors of a school in Spain, Croatia, the United Kingdom, Italy and Romania. The children were aged 3 to 11 years and included children with special needs in mainstream, but also a group of children with significant learning difficulties within our specialist unit at East Hunsbury Primary School, because we're both a mainstream school and have a specialist unit for 40 children as part of our school community. So here's a photograph of the launch which was a terrific event where we all got together and we really showed a shared commitment to developing children's social and emotional intelligence. And our launch was actually in Spain. And it was a fabulous launch because we came away inspired with lots of ideas and ways in which we could develop children's emotional literacy within our classroom. And we're just going to share just a few of them. So, one of the things they actually already used in the Spanish school were peacemakers. Children right from the age of 4 all the way up to 11 in each class had the responsibility of helping children understand conflict and resolve conflict within the playground and within the classroom. And they had speaking and listening chairs so that the children were used to actually listening to each other and being allowed to express how they were feeling and how actions or words sometimes impacted on them emotionally and socially. Peacemakers was something that we brought back to the UK. You'll also see that there is something called calm corners, which was just a cheap tent really from IKEA, so you can get it in most places within the world. However, these calm corners were there not for just when children were feeling rage and anger, but also when they were upset or felt conflicted in terms of their emotion. And each classroom erected a calm corner which the children could go and use when they were feeling sad or when they were feeling upset or when they were feeling cross. And there they could put particular items that would help them calm down and get to a point where they could actually speak to another child or another adult about how they were feeling. Also in Spain, they had something called emotional barometers. So instead of just taking the register and actually deciding that you had 30 children who were attending in your classroom, you were taking the time to actually find out how they were feeling that day. So the children would come into the classroom and on the doors, they would actually put their picture beside how they were feeling. And then this could be easily picked up by a teacher or another adult in the classroom to make sure that they had a conversation with that pupil as to why they were scared or why they were worried. Was it because of the subject they were going to have that day? Was it because of something that had happened on the playground or at lunchtime? And it helped us resolve problems more effectively. Also, we introduced something called worry eaters, which was a toy that we introduced into all our classrooms, where if a child was worried but felt unable to talk straight away about it, they could write it down, put it in the worry eater, who would gobble it up, and it could be gone forever, or an adult would open that worry eater during the day and find out who it was from and have a conversation with that pupil. So these were wonderful strategies that we're able to bring back to the UK and Croatia and Italy and Romania and put into practice in all our classrooms. At first, it was in just a few classes, but then all the other teachers became really interested in what we were doing and wanted to take part too. It was really catching, and everyone suddenly became interested in emotional literacy. I'm going to pass you over now to Kelly Roberts, who was also a member of our SMILE team.
Hello, I'm a class teacher in the school in the United Kingdom. Rita's given you an outline of the project and has spoken about the whole school initiatives involved in the project. And I'd like to just give you a little bit more information about what we actually did in our classrooms. So in our initial meeting in Madrid, we decided that emotions was a very big topic and it would be hard to choose areas to focus on in the classroom. So from the slide on the screen at the moment, you can see that we decided to teach the emotions of fear, hopes and dreams, love and friendship, self-esteem, empathy, understanding anger and understanding sadness, with the view of developing it a bit further as we went along. Could you please share the first question with our participants now? So we teach our SMILE teaching daily. Our emotions teaching is daily, so I've just cast my vote for daily, and I hope that the rest of you can join in as well. It would be very interesting for us to see. Seems to be that lots of you are teaching your children about their emotions every day. That's lovely to see. It's very encouraging to see that across Europe, lots of children are being taught how to deal with their emotions. I'm just going to progress now with my presentation and show you some of the activities that we taught in our classrooms. So the first emotion that we focused on was fear. And when we attended the launch event in Spain, it actually coincided with Halloween. So the children were learning a lot about understanding their emotions of fear and things that they were scared of. And we decided that it was very important to involve parents with this as well. So we wanted to find out what the children were scared of, but also what their parents were scared of. And the outcome was that we wanted the children to understand that actually it's okay to feel fear, and we all feel fear at different times in our lives. One of the important aspects of the SMILE project was for the children to develop small amulets and small tokens that they could actually keep. And you can see here on our slide, if you look in the middle at the bottom of the slide, there's a picture of a little stone in a bag, and we called these bravery bags, and the children created these to hold on to when they were feeling scared and worried. And one little boy in my class actually took it to the dentist with him to help him feel brave. So he'd learnt about his feelings of fear in class, and then he took that home with him, and he explained to his mum that actually he was holding on to his bravery bag to help him feel brave when he was at the dentist. So that was very lovely to see. As we're running a little bit low on time, I'm going to whiz through the other activities a little bit more quickly, but all of these are available on our project website. We have a manual with all the lesson plans on, so if you'd like further information, the project website will be shared with you in our bio. So we went on to learning about hopes and dreams and wishes, and you can see lots of the lovely activities. Our main focus here was for children to realise that actually it's good to have big dreams, it's good to have big hopes, and that actually you might wish something for yourself but also for the world as well. And you can see lots of photographs of the different activities there. Self-esteem is something that affects a lot of our children, and sadly in a negative way at times. There can be a lot of children who don't have the confidence and the self-belief in themselves. So we thought it was important to focus on this and to help them build and develop it and to celebrate what was good about themselves. So alongside plays and performances that we already have in school, we also focused on the talents of the individual children and asked them to complete some information at home to talk about their strengths as well. Empathy was a very tricky concept. I was working with 8-year-old children at the time, and it was quite hard for them to understand the big emotion of empathy. So in these pictures, you can see lots of artwork where the children responded to emotions that they felt through music, and we thought we'd approach empathy through the route of feeling somebody else's emotions through music and art. We also joined with our parents to engage in a project called Walk a Mile in My Shoes, where we asked the parents to fill a small box, a shoe box, with things from their childhood so that they could talk to their children about how life was different a few years ago as well. So again, parental engagement was really nice to see all the way throughout the project. We then moved on to looking at sadness, and this happened around about November time, so it coincided with our Remembrance Day in the UK, and we looked at how sadness is a spectrum of emotions and how you can feel different levels of sadness, and we talked to parents about how they overcome sad times in their lives. And again, it was about encouraging children to realise that actually feeling sad at some time in your life is normal and it's okay, and there are ways that we can deal with it. I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Lisa Greenough, who works in our specialist unit with the children with severe learning difficulties, and she's going to give you a little bit more information.
Okay, hello everybody. So I'm Lisa Greenough and I work in the specialist unit for children with severe learning difficulties. And when we did this project, we ran this project across the classes in the specialist unit, but we focused on the 2 classes, and they were the Key Stage 2 children. So they are children from age 8, 9, 10 and 11. So our next slide. So this slide is how we disseminated our project outcomes. So we had some video conferences. So at the bottom left of the slide, you can see where we linked up through our video links to the other schools in the European partner countries. And it was really lovely for the children to see each other and say hello to each other, because as staff we had been in contact with these partners, but the children had yet to do that, so it was really lovely. And we made sure at Christmas time and things we joined together and did some Christmas songs and did some sharing that way. So that was a really lovely way for the children to be involved in the same themes across the schools. In the top left hand corner we had a competition where we had to choose a logo for the SMILE project. So all partner schools entered the competition, and the children, the kindergarten children in Croatia, actually were choosing the winners, and the winning logo was chosen by one of the children in the Romanian project partner schools. So those are the pictures of the children choosing the winning mascot, the winning logo, sorry. Then you can see on the right hand side of the slide are our mascots. So we were asked to design a mascot that represented our school, that we would take with us when we visited the countries to disseminate the project. So each school designed their mascot, and in our school, particularly in the UK, the children were very involved in naming the mascot. So we ran a competition in our school, and all the children decided on names that they would like to put forward, and our mascot was called Hope, because we thought that that encompassed the SMILE project really nicely. And then in the bottom side of the slide, you can see how we engage with our parent community and our staff community. So we ran the project through 2 classes in the specialist unit and 2 classes in mainstream, but we very quickly realised that we wanted to engage our community within that as well. So myself and my colleague Kelly, we produced a newsletter that went out various times throughout the 2-year project, keeping parents and all stakeholders to do with the school up to date with our project. We also had parent meetings where parents came into the school to have a look at some of the work that their children had been doing. And then we disseminated the project locally to our schools that are in our local area as well, just to keep everybody on board with what was happening, so that we were making sure that we were up to date with all of those project aims. Okay, so please could you share question number 2 to everybody? So question number 2, we would like some feedback on what we've said so far. So our question number 2 is, how are these lessons structured in terms of pupil numbers? So you've got your options: one-to-one, small group, whole class. So you can decide how you share your lessons of emotional intelligence within your class. Okay. Okay. Okay, so our next slide is our slide that details how we gathered evidence. So one of the project aims was to report on the evidence that we were gathering throughout this project. It was a very important part of the project. We had to make sure that we were videoing the lessons, taking photographs of the lessons, reporting on data. So as a school, we decided to baseline the children at the beginning of the project with tools that we have in school. We used two different measure tools, one for the mainstream children and one for the children in the specialist unit with the severe learning difficulties. So we measured them at the beginning of the project, and that took the form of answering questions about emotions, how they would feel in certain situations, and we would scale those. And then we did the same test with those children at the end of the project. So we were able to see the difference between those two outcomes. We also made sure that we were collecting evidence in floor books, so big scrapbooks with lots of photographs, quotes from the children, really important, ideas for lesson plans, statements that the parents had said, examples of homework. The children in the specialist unit, I created a special smile book for each of those. It's very important for the children to have ownership of something that they've taken part in. So instead of a class floor book, we had an individual evidence book for the children. Photographs, Kelly and myself created a small blog page. So through our school website, parents could log on to the blog and we would send a message periodically throughout the project to say what we'd been up to. And it was really lovely because when we went to visit the other partner schools in the project, we took along our mascot, Hope, with us. And we actually wrote a blog from Hope to the children back in school. So although our children, personally in our own classes, were not with us at the time, we still felt very connected to them and sharing our adventures with Hope through the blog. And we were actually getting messages back to us while we were on our trips to the other countries. So that was amazing. There's an e-twinning platform as well. All the schools had to upload ideas and planning to the e-twinning platform. We made sure that we had some surveys that were sent out to parents. So any feedback from them at home about lessons that we taught them. We sent out a staff survey as well. How were the staff feeling about teaching these lessons? Is there any help that they needed? Anything that we could do differently? And then obviously we asked the children how they thought the project was going. And then at the very end, the last bullet point, intellectual outputs. So these were the measures that we had to produce. So we have a couple of those to show you as an example. So we have a smile Pictionary. I don't know if you can see that. I'll hold it here. So this is a smile project mini Pictionary of emotions. So these were created for all the children in the project. So I'm just going to open a couple of examples. So you can see some of the children in school designed a emotions face. And then they were produced and the emotion is underneath in every language. I'm just going to bring it a bit closer so you can see a couple of those there. I'll turn a page here. You can see another example. So all the children involved in the project took home a smile mini Pictionary of emotions. And then each school had to decide on which intellectual output they were going to be responsible for within the project. So some schools chose the logo or the mascot. We as a school decided that we would like to create the mini Pictionary, but also had a very big role in creating our manual ways to smile. So in here are the very best examples of all the lesson plans that were created by all the partner schools across Europe. So this manual then became available to all the teachers teaching in these schools. A very easy manual to pick up and read from. I'll just show you an example. So it's got photographs in, the lesson content, resources, feedback from ourselves. So what we thought went well, what we thought could be improved next time we did the lesson. So this was an easy tool for us to use when we were training our staff and training other schools locally. Okay, could we put on question number 3, please? Okay, so question number 3, what tools or schemes do you currently use to implement these lessons? Okay. Okay, so I'm now going to pass you back over to Rita Arundel to conclude our topic evaluation.
Okay, so what's been the impact so far? Well, as the first presenter said, you really have to get the adults around you, the teachers and the teaching assistants, the leadership team, really believing that this is important. And for us, it really refreshed our approach to personal, social, health and emotional education. We found through our research that it did improve pupils' attitudes to coming to school, and particularly those with special needs related to emotional and social difficulties. Some children actually spoke about how they felt more understood and more supported by the other children in the classroom. We felt that staff were more confident at tackling difficult subjects and actually listening to the children and how they were feeling and responding to them, and helping them to have the strategies to cope with the more difficult emotions, particularly anger and sadness, which occurs from time to time. And the children had resources and strategies at their fingertips, taught with the teachers who were in charge of their classes to support them in this way. It was great having all the different lesson examples coming in from the different countries we were working with, because it really was a great exchange of best practice and ideas. And it gave us a real insight and understanding to the fact that actually in so many countries in our society, we're experiencing the same difficulties. More and more children with mental health problems, more and more children who actually are finding the structure and the rigor of our curriculum really hard to cope with, and actually giving them the strategies for life and future citizenship is so important. It increased our families' involvement in the school, and actually those parents that you always spoke to because the day had gone badly for the children, we could have different types of conversations with them. And some parents actually talked about things that the children were using at home. Sometimes it was a calm corner in their bedroom that really supported an anxious child. So this was really a good way of involving families and helping their child socially, emotionally at school, but also at home as well. And through it, we had many invitations to disseminate the project more widely. The manual is actually available for free on eTwinning, and this webinar is just one other example of how we've been asked to actually continue the work of SMILE and hopefully impact on so many children's social and emotional well-being in our primary schools. That's us finished. I don't know if there's anything that anyone would like to ask, but feel able to do so.
Hey, thank you so much. There are already some questions, sort of this question about families and parents that also ties into the previous presentation about having support for teachers and this whole school approach. So, for example, this question involving families is very hard. What are the best strategies to involve families, and also how did you involve the parents?
Well, we found that because we were doing a real focus on each emotion at a time, it was actually easier to engage families because we often gave them tasks that they could undertake at home. It might be that they were creating something or just having a conversation with their family members, such as Kelly mentioned about fear. And actually children carry these fears and don't know how to handle them, and to have a conversation with your parents about things they're frightened of really helped them. Similarly, self-esteem, we actually found again the task that went home where the actual parents were writing good things, great things about their children, which we then put in on display in our school as a compliments tree, made the children feel so proud, because perhaps they only heard the moans and the groans about how they were behaving at home without realizing actually they had so much to offer and so many positives that could be considered. And then there were also the meetings for parents that Lisa and Kelly ran that actually were really, really helpful in explaining things. And a door almost opened to some parents to talk about how they were struggling with a child's behaviour at home, and strategies that might be helpful. So we have angry beast boxes in school, which the children actually use, which contain things that help them calm down when they're feeling angry. And these were something that they could also create at home when they exhibited a similar feeling of anger at home as well. So lots of opportunities.
Thanks a lot. And then any other questions, because we're a bit over the time, so try to wrap this up. Maybe one last question, if there are any. There was also other one, like, did you receive any special training for teachers on this matter, or?
I think in Spain we had the launch event where we talked about emotional literacy, but our biggest professional development was actually coming up with ideas within our individual schools and then sharing them with each other and talking about the impact of that. And some of the testimonies from the teachers involved having undertaken the project, in terms of that in touch with your emotions, so many teachers actually felt that they were in touch more with their own emotions as well. So no specific university training as such, just lots of discussions at every meeting to come up with the good ideas and good strategies.
Thanks
and
so
talk
much.
about the impact of the
any
project.
final questions? Maybe that's the last one. Was this a mobility with students? So yeah, was this a KA2 Erasmus project?
No, this was a KA1 project. So the students were involved in terms of sharing the activities and the video conferencing, but actually our teachers went from country to country looking at the impact of the project.
Okay, thanks so much. So I'm afraid, I mean, we've discussed so much and there were a lot of wonderful ideas, but I'm afraid we need to close the session. It's already almost 6:10. So any final comments either from Carmel or Rita about the topic? Anything that came to your mind?
I have just one comment. So I congratulate Rita and her team on the fantastic project they are doing. And in this project, there are many are seeing alive what we have been researching. A lot of good practice, good ideas, and they are also doing evaluation. So I send them my congratulations on such a great program. And also, it's very great that it is available online for teachers, so they can download the manual.
Okay.
I think so. It's tied in wonderfully with the first presentation because it is all about creating the right climate and culture within your school environment, and the ethos of the school is so important, but it's also raising the profile of this in terms of having value.
Thanks a lot. So maybe my final comments, like, it was very good to have both of your presentations. I think they really complemented each other. So you have maybe the more theoretical background and the research and the practice that was visible in the project. And just to address some questions, yes, we shared the slides and the recording afterwards. And I think we can also share the report that was mentioned earlier for some more background information. And then I'm sure we can share the more information about the project, such as the website and the handbook. So you'll find all this information in on the webinar page. So if I can, before we close it, just to mention to you if you click on these links, you will find the feedback survey, and then for certificate, if you click on the link, you can input your details, so you will receive that one as well. And from my side, I really want to say a lot of thank you for all the presenters. It was very interesting, and it was a pleasure to hear more from you. And I hope all the teachers who joined us found this inspirational and useful in their everyday practice. And a big thank you for everyone who came. There's quite a lot of us today, so thanks a lot. And I hope I will see you online soon, and I hope we get to collaborate again very soon. And meanwhile, you will find, as I said, all the information on the webinar page. So I'm just going to